Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the SkillsFuture Festival X Smart Nation 2022 webinar series organized by SkillsFuture Singapore and Smart Nation Office. Today's webinar entitled A Guide to Improving User Experience (UX) is organized in partnership with Nanyang Polytechnic. I'm Celestine and I'll be your host for this session. Today, we'll learn more about the principles and elements of designing a good user experience (UX), followed by a Q&A to wrap up the session. During the webinar, please feel free to type in your questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. The speaker will address them accordingly. Without further ado, let's welcome Wen Lei, Senior Lecturer, School of Design and Media of Nanyang Polytechnic. Wen Lei, please.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. Thank you once again, SkillsFuture Festival and Smart Nation 2022. I'm Wen Lei. I'm here to walk you through a very short journey on how we can make user experience better. And then what are some of the tips that we usually do in our line of work. So I'm from the School of Design and Media from Nanyang Poly. Before we start, just a quick introduction about myself. I am, let me just go to the next slide. So I've been working in the creative and education industry since 2000, and I started working as an interactive media designer. Especially looking into UX design, interactive and digital experiential design. But what I'm really passionate about is really looking at the new creative economy. Over here, you see a little snapshot of myself. I was recently featured in the August issue of the Pick magazine. So if you happen to have a copy in your office, I know it's by subscription only, you can look out for me in that magazine. But what I'm also really interested in right now is the metaverse, the idea of digital, which is combining digital and physical experiences, and definitely looking into design and technology, iron technology. Just a quick sort of career timeline. I got my master's in New York from NYU in 2014. And then ever since I came back to Singapore and I taught at NUS and NTU as well. And in 2020, I joined Nanyang Poly as a senior lecturer. So currently I'm still teaching there, passionately sharing my experiences with the learners there. Just a quick overview of what we are going to do today for the 1 hour session. The first part of the session is really looking into what exactly is user experience. So we will unpack it through different examples. Then I'll talk about very briefly about what is the UX process and how we can better improve it through this sort of very structured process. And then I'll end up with talking about the experience economy, which is something very new to many of us here. So this will be the overall arcing agenda for today. But having said that, since we're talking about user experience and my interest is in participation and interaction, I would like to do a very short poll regarding what are your thoughts on user experience. So if you don't mind, I can't see you, but you can see me. If you can, you scan the QR code, scan this QR code on the screen over here. And then you will be presented with very short questions, where you'll be asked to answer 2 short questions. The first question is list 1 everyday experience that you find most pleasant. So first question will be 1 everyday experience that you find most pleasant. That's the first question. Then later on, we'll move on to the second question. Yeah. So if everyone can help me, just scan the QR code and then use your mobile phone to scan the QR code, and you can go into this little poll that we are doing over here. List 1 everyday experience that you find most pleasant. Now, the answers coming in. Later, I'll share very briefly. This is anonymous, so I'll share very briefly what are the answers or what are some of your thoughts regarding user experience or experience. Okay, interesting. It's all coming in. Okay. Maybe let me just do a quick swap of the screen so that we can take a look at what everyone is doing. Let me just stop screen sharing for a while. Okay, so let me just bring this forward. Let me share screen. Okay, so this is what we have over here. Those of you who gave your thoughts, drinking coffee is a pleasant everyday experience, a cold drink, having a stroll, exercising, working out, greeted by birds chirping, definitely, yeah, non-crowded train, one of my favorite over here, first coffee of the day, sleeping. So these are pleasant experience that some of us encounter or some of us appreciate on a day-to-day basis, which I totally identify with. So moving on to the second question very quickly is what makes this experience pleasant? So earlier we talked about the experiences. What exactly makes it pleasant? So we unpack this and then we sort of zoom into understanding why do you think first coffee of the day is so pleasant? Why is the birds chirping so pleasant to you? Why is it that exercising or working out, is a pleasant experience? Okay, we have the answers coming in. The adrenaline rush, I believe that's related to exercising and working out. You feel energized. It could be exercising or drinking coffee. Yes, getting things done, have a checklist done, putting things in control. I believe the sweet sound of nature has to do with the birds chirping, listening to that, chilling out, not having to do anything over here. So what we are gathering over here, the general sensing I'm hearing is there's some form of sensorial experience, be it the sound of nature. There's also the adrenaline rush, which is really feeling very energized, feeling good about yourself, that this feeling of goodness, and then feeling very much in control of something, which is getting a checklist done over here. So with this in mind, I just want you to keep in mind some of the reasons that we have over here. And later on, when we go to look at the content again, we will share a little bit more. Okay, so let me just go back to the content over here. Okay, let me just close this. So what exactly is UX? So in a nutshell, it's user experience. In this case, the user can be anyone from your elderly to your baby. Sometimes people talk about user being the pets as well. So as changing, it includes many people in this case. Experience in this case is everywhere. It's like what you mentioned earlier, some of our friends mentioned earlier here, it could be an experience like drinking coffee. It could be an experience like working out. It could be an experience like even sleeping or resting or getting work done in and of itself into experience. But when we look at user experience, it's actually a merger. It's a merger of user needs as well as business goals. So this is where the two sides or two aspects of the industry comes in. As a UX designer, what I do is I have to understand the user needs. I have to meet the user needs, yet at the same time, I'm meeting the business goal. What is the business objective? And more than often, when we are doing user experience design, it's really, really about creating that smooth and pleasant experience, which we earlier mentioned or picked out some examples. Listening to the sound of nature, working out, getting things done, having a checklist. It's always about this designing the before, during, and after interaction with the product. It's not about you taking out your mobile phone and using that particular app at the point in time. It's about what the user intentions are even before they take out the mobile phone to track, say, for example, their heartbeat while running. And what is the after running and tracking your particular day jog? What happens after that? So it's really about that. And it's always from a very human focused point of view, because ultimately what we are doing here as user experience designer is helping someone or solving problems using a human-centric approach, in this case, from their point of view. So within the user experience design, there are many different disciplines that comes together. It's not just a designer role, which is visual design. We looked at usability, we looked at psychology, we look at sociology, and definitely aesthetic, which is the presentation of the experience. Zooming in, there are many, many disciplines under the user experience umbrella. What we are focusing on, or what I focus on in my day-to-day job in terms of teaching my learners or the projects that I do, will focus primarily on interaction design, which is human to computer interaction, be it websites, application, interactive experience, experiential marketing that you see in pop-up stores. Those are the things I'm really interested in, and I developed that with my students. But having said that, very often we have this kind of confusion when it comes to user experience equals to usability, or usability here meaning user friendliness. Oh, means it's user friendly, means it's a user experience, it's a good user experience, not necessarily. So in fact, user experience is actually more than usability, because what we have to do as user experience designer is we have to pay attention to all aspects, which brings me to the central focus of today's session is how can we improve user experience? So there are many, many school of thoughts that I would like to share. But today, in the interest of time, I would like to zoom into one particular, what I would call a framework, a structure that we can take away, that we can use it very easily in different types of improving user experience. So this is the Peter Morville's user experience honeycomb. I thought it's quite easy to understand, and there are certain very valuable elements within this honeycomb that you can take away. So he kind of broken that down into three main aspects. The first aspect is think. How the users think in terms of their perception of the product or the service that you're designing. How do they feel? Feel often has to do with their emotions, how it triggers the different types of emotions. Do they feel happy? Do they feel energized? Do they feel the adrenaline? And then last but not least, the third aspect is the use, which is to be usable, which is to be accessible. Is the information easy to find? So this is like a very clear way of breaking down what are the different aspects of a user experience and making good user experience. So maybe let me just go into some of these elements. So the part about useful, in fact, over here is in the eye of the beholder. And what do I mean by that is more than often, someone will find something useful if it is personalized to their needs. And you do see that happening. With Spotify, you have your personalized playlist. Earlier, when Spotify was launched, it was tied to your horoscope. It recommends songs based on your horoscope. Now it recommends songs based on your listening habits. What are the songs you prefer to listen on a frequent basis? So usefulness is very much about personalization. So this is how you draw someone. This is how you improve your user experience. How can we offer something that is unique to that particular customer that will meet their needs? The second point is usable. I'm not saying that this website is usable, but in this case, this website probably wouldn't meet the usability kind of criteria or benchmark. This is actually a real website from many years ago. It's a real tuition place. But having said that, usefulness, as I was mentioning earlier, does not necessarily equate to usable. Yes, the Spotify playlist is very useful for me because I can always listen to songs that I really, really love. But in this case, what if there are information I need over here, but it's not usable? Oh my God, it's very hard to find information. I have to look around the whole page to look out for where I can have tuition, where I want to post a tuition request. Is really about how many clicks you need to take to reach your desired page. Usually what we recommend is 3 clicks, not more than 3 clicks. Now even the attention span is shorter, maybe even 1 click you need to get the user to their direct information that they need or the task that they need to complete. So usability, whether your app or whether your product or service is usable, is one of the criteria of a good user experience. Moving forward, the other important thing is now we are swamped with different types of content, different types of information. Imagine like Netflix, okay? Netflix have a very structured way to allow you to search for information. In this case, the information refers to the movies or the TV series or the anime that you want to watch. Is this page that I'm showing you here easily findable in terms of the information? Can you find the information easily? Probably not exactly. So I'm using this as like a bad example, but in this case, to remind ourselves here, this is probably something we do not want our user, that we want to put them in the shoe to have to navigate or have to look at all this information and try to find that one bit of information. So most importantly, is the information easy to find, which translates to the quicker I can get to the content, the happier I will be. So moving on to the good experience, improving the user experience. The other aspect, credible. I'm sure most of you encountered this, started many years ago, even before COVID-19 came. There was all this DHL scam, and then a post office scam, the Singapore Police Force scam. You have this scam SMS coming in. So credibility, credible here. Is your product credible? Do people trust you? So it's very, very impossible to deliver good user experience if the user thinks that the product creator is lying or has bad intention. So if people start to get suspicious or they start to like feel a little bit like, this is too good to be true, I don't really believe you. So this is where the user experience starts to get a little bit wonky. It's really hard to deliver that user experience if the first point of contact is mistrust over here. So credibility of your product is very important. Next on, we have something called accessible. So accessibility is really about allowing people with a different range of abilities to use your product, be it an app or a website. Many a times we assume that, oh, green means good, red means bad, don't do that. So, but more than often, in fact, what if the person or the user is colorblind? How are you going to negotiate that? How are you going to meet their needs? So one thing that this is a new school of thought that they are trying to propose is what we call universal design, that if your UX of your user experience design is able to accommodate all this different range of abilities, it means it's easier for everyone, and not just different abilities, but it's easier for everyone if you are able to address these unique abilities. So this is one suggestion or one direction user experience is moving towards. The part of that I really liked about this honeycomb user experience, breaking down into different elements, is the desirability, whether your product or your service is desirable. So I think this was last year or the year before, BTS did a collab with McDonald's. Usually you look at McDonald's, you have your French fries, you have your nuggets, you have your burger, it seems ordinary, just another McDonald's meal. But the moment you have this collaboration with a big Korean superstar group, then suddenly it becomes very desirable. Suddenly it becomes something that, oh my God, I really must go and queue and buy this product. You start to see people selling $40 McDonald's news boxes on Carousel, people selling like the sweet chili sauce on Carousel for $300. So the more desirable the product, the more the user will brag about it. You don't even have to do promotion. They will help you to do the promotion, and it will create desires in other users, which is why people can sell it at $300 for a Cajun sauce. Talking about valuable perception, yet again, what they think about your product or your service. Some users might value desirability, which is what we mentioned earlier. Some users might feel that this is important to them. Not all aspects is important to them. The usability might not be so important, but being desirable, the product must be desirable, is important to them. But for most user, or I would say most of the time, the valuable aspect is important. I would say that some people might see that valuability over here. If you're looking at a cup of coffee, there are many ways you can get a cup of coffee. You can either tapao on a drawstring, a string from the kopitiam, or you can buy a McCafe at maybe $1.90 or $2, McCafe, a little latte, or you can buy yourself a little more expensive coffee at Starbucks, $4, $5, or you can buy a cup of Arabica, $9 coffee. So what is valuable is a perception. It varies from people to people. For me, maybe the string packet kind of tapao kopi, kopi C, which I really love, from the kopitiam is something that is valuable. For some people, maybe the Arabica coffee is more valuable. So it varies from people to people. So in a nutshell, these are different aspects. But what we are trying to do over here is for you to acknowledge that actually different people focus on one different things from an experience. So it can be desirability, it can be value, it can be easy to find information. So different focus, different people have different focus or different things that they want. Having said all this in terms of improving user experience, ultimately, UX without user isn't UX. So involving the user, involving the customer in the design process is something that we try to achieve. We try to engage them in terms of getting them to do focus group. We engage them through involving them in our user tests before we launch our app or our website. So this is how the different methods that we involve our user. So the next thing I'm going to discuss is actually UX process. So in this case, what exactly is the UX process? We talk about the framework or the structure that we can use to design good user experience. Now is how can we design the user experience through a kind of like an iterative process. What I would say, like a little cycle, which I will show you very shortly. So user experience design is an iterative process, meaning you go in, you do version 1, you get people to test, and then they give you the feedback, you come back again and you give another feedback and you refine it. So user process is heavily influenced or drawing reference. Some of you may have heard of this. It's the design thinking process. So what exactly is the design thinking process? There are different sort of stages. But having said that, the different stages does not necessarily mean it has to be linear, meaning one step after the other. So usually we will start off the process with empathize, meaning I go and interview my user, say I want to do a product for elderly, maybe I go and talk to the elderly, or maybe I go and interview the elderly, I observe how they live in their homes. This is what we call the empathize stage. Then the define stage is where we zoom in to look at what is exactly the problem we are trying to solve. Are we trying to build an app for elderly so that they can connect with their families? Or are we trying to build an app for elderlies to solve their issue of maybe having to connect with someone when they're alone? So finding that kind of community for them. So the problem definition stage is actually very important. With that problem definition, then we go on to ideate. We think about the different solutions that we can provide to the elderly. And then next stage, we prototype, we mock up, we do little sort of what we call the demo version of what our app is. Then we test it with the user, test it with the elderly, and then we implement it. But having said that, sometimes during testing, we may realize, hey, this problem is actually not addressed properly. Maybe we will need to go back to the ideation stage and then refine it further. Maybe we try another solution, maybe not an app exactly, maybe it's a wearable, a watch or something. So we go back to the ideation stage, we prototype again, we test it again. So you can see that it's an iterative process. And this is a method that we borrow very strongly from the design thinking process that a lot of companies, big companies, such as IDEO, even when it comes to, I think, GovTech actually uses some form of the UX thinking, UX process design thinking also. Some of you may see design thinking implemented not just in building apps or building websites, which is what we do at Nanyang Poly, but you may use design thinking in solving everyday problems as well. Say, for example, how do we improve the well-being of children in school, so that they eat healthily? That could be using a design thinking approach as well. But what I'm trying to say is when it comes to the UX process, it's really very much about empathy, meaning put yourself in the shoe of someone, being someone at that particular point in time, experiencing what they see, feel, or hear. In this case, this is Tim Brown. He is the chair and co-CEO of IDEO. IDEO is a big company that designed one of the earliest Apple mouse. They designed a lot of Oral-B toothbrush. They are a big proponent of design thinking process. And then right now they are using the design thinking process to even solve social or economic issues or problems, even climate change problems in different parts of the world. So using this UX process, I actually ran different workshops with some of our learners who come for our SkillsFuture one-day workshop. If you are keen, later on, they will share more information regarding that. So what I did with my learners at that point in time, that was 2 years ago, slightly before COVID, is to reimagine air travel experience. So I gave them a little mini challenge. We kind of interview each other regarding thinking about air travel. That was like early part of the pandemic. Then we brainstorm, we test out the idea. So we can see that that mini challenge is a reflection. It's like a mirror of the design thinking process. So these are some images from the workshops that I ran with the learners who partook. And then they drew sketches, and then they come up with different ideas. They even do what we call body storming, which is role play, act out as if they are boarding the plane. They have different children coming. How do they going to manage, come up with different solutions in that sense? So over here, in a nutshell, in terms of the UX process, is really starting the whole process from the user point of view. You start off with the people that you are designing for. It's always about the people. Definitely from also the business point of view, you look at what are your business objectives, and then you align both elements and see if you can come up with the solution that is able to meet these two elements. Having said that, there's a shift recently. In fact, this shift started almost 20 years ago. This is what we call the experience economy. So what exactly is the experience economy? Right now, we are focusing a lot more on the experience. And I'm going to use one very particular example that all of you can relate to talk about this experience economy, what exactly it is. Birthdays. I'm sure all of you know what is birthdays, okay? So in the 70s and 80s, or in the 80s while I was growing up, my mom will buy me a cake, when I'm 1 year old, or your family will buy you a cake. The cake is in this shape. There's chocolate chips around it. It's buttercream. I still remember the taste of it, the smell of it. And then what we have is my mom will fry some fish ball, and then there'll be chicken wings, even though I don't eat any of them. I remember from the pictures. So a birthday is celebrated in that sense, whereby your parents buy the cake, but they have to make a lot of dishes, different type of snacks, okay, separately. Moving on to the 80s and 90s, I do witness suddenly there's a trend. People start having birthday party at McDonald's, okay? So, whoever has birthday party at McDonald's is what we call very papai lah, like, you have birthday at McDonald's, I so envy my classmates. Then can invite your friends, they give you balloons, there's a clown, they give you party hats and things like that. Moving forward to what is happening right now in 2020, okay, there's this trend whereby People throw elaborate birthday parties for their children, for themselves also. You have themes, whether the kid loves space, or in this case, the child loves a galaxy or space theme. You can see that like, the little cupcakes are made into little like planets with a blue swirl of cream. The decoration reflects that galaxy. So what I'm trying to say is welcome to the experience economy. So no longer are we looking at products or services alone. We are looking at experiences. So this was something that was proposed in, I think, 1998 by Joseph Pine and James Gilmore. So this was written in a Harvard Business Review almost 20 years ago. So in this particular article, they discuss about there's a transition, there's a progression of economic value. So what do I mean by that? So much earlier in the 1970s or 80s, people make goods. And maybe parents pay for goods. You buy a cake, you bring it home. Then later on, businesses are looking not at selling you a goods anymore, a product anymore. They are delivering a particular service so that the mom or the parents or the family don't have to, fry the chicken wing or the fish ball. They just book a day or half a day at McDonald's. Drinks will be provided, food will be provided, balloons will be provided. You don't even have to clean up. So they're providing a service. Moving forward, what we are talking about right now in this current economy is stage experiences. It's really about letting that consumer become someone. You can see some of the birthday party themes can be like Frozen. The child become Elsa, or I think the recent one is Toy Story. I do see Minions theme. So the child become this character. The birthday girl or the boy becomes this character in this experience. You have magic show, you have games for the children. So it becomes a stage where the child becomes someone else. It's the experience that they go through. They become a character in this birthday experience. So no longer is about eating food, sharing food here anymore. No longer is about cutting a cake. It's about becoming someone else, becoming someone special on that particular day. So looking back at our kopi sort of example earlier again. So what you have in the string plastic packet is like a product or goods that you sell. As we move along this spectrum over here, you do see that more and more we are moving towards the experiential or the stage experience, where you have Mac Cafe. It's more like a service. They sell you a service, they provide you with the sugar, things like that. They sell you a whole packaged meal. And then we move towards Starbucks, trying to create atmosphere, which is why we have Starbucks Spotify playlist that you can play, song list. You sort of immerse yourself in the environment. It's like an experience. But I would say the company that does the staging of the experience very well is, in fact, this particular example that I would like to showcase today, Nespresso. So maybe let us watch a video of Nespresso. Some of you might be very familiar. So this is an example of a walk through a user journey of Nespresso in Australia. Okay, so might be a bit glitch over here. Let me just go through maybe this kind of like the story flow or the user journey flow with you here. So what you have is, when you go to the Nespresso store, you'll be welcomed with this very bright sign that's saying Nespresso. As you enter into the store, you will be received with different shelf, and you see different coffee machine layout. Okay, that's their product. Next thing you know, you're welcomed by a barista, someone that makes coffee for you. You approach the barista. You can choose what sort of a flavor of coffee that you want to taste. The barista makes that coffee right in front of you using their coffee machine. And then you, after tasting the coffee, sampling the coffee, then you go to this beautiful, like sort of colorful shelf that you can pick and choose the coffee flavor that you just tasted. And then from there, you go to a self-checkout machine. This is in particular in Australia. It's slightly different in Singapore, but they have a self-checkout machine, and you can link it directly. What you have just purchased, you can link it directly to your Nespresso account using the Nespresso app. You're part of the Nespresso club as well. So what we are looking at over here is no longer an isolated goods. In this case, you will assume that, oh, I'm just selling you coffee powder. No, I'm not selling you coffee powder. Hey, maybe they're just selling me coffee machine. No, so it's like selling me a service. I can make coffee, like connoisseur coffee or good coffee at home. Is it just a service? Not exactly. But what they are trying to do here is to sell you an experience that you can have the barista experience simply by buying their product. And it continues this journey. Even when you're at home using the app, the journey continues because they know what you like. They will recommend what are the different kinds of flavor, new flavors coming in. You can keep track of how much you have drunk in terms of the consumed, in terms of the coffee. And then you're part of this bigger club whereby wherever you go in different parts of the world, you become this big Nespresso community. So this is exactly what I'm referring to, whereby we are moving from goods to experience in this case. So, but having said that, using frameworks such as the Peter Morview honeycomb, user experience honeycomb framework to unpack what is usable, what is desirable, what is findable, those different elements still works in an experience design. Using the UX process, which is really about understanding the user, knowing their needs, yet at the same time meeting the business objective, that will still apply even if we are talking about experience design as well. So this will bring me to the end of today's session. I thank you for your attention. And then now we will open the floor for Q&A. Thank you. So if you have any questions, maybe let me just stop sharing. If you have any question, you can post your questions on I believe the Zoom chat is open. If you have any questions, you can ask away. I'm happy to share or happy to answer them as much as possible. Any questions or anything that you like me to clarify in the slides, in the presentation? Oh, there's a Q&A. Okay. Okay, I'm going to answer it live. How do we have Regine, if I pronounce it correctly, or Regina? Okay. How do you advise on how to build the community for a new brand? Okay, so I think when it comes to having worked with different organization, different government organization, and looking at especially the art and tech community in Singapore, building a new brand over here, I think it's all boils down to what exactly is the objective. What is your objective in building the community? Is the community building something that you realize there is a gap in the current landscape, whichever, I don't know which industry, but whichever landscape that you are referring to? Maybe it's about talking about the metaverse. I'm just giving an example. And then you realize there isn't a community to discuss about that, which is why you want to build the community. So I think knowing in particular what gap you're trying to address, or what exactly is the objective of this community is very important. Once you have the objective, I think the branding will come much later, because the objective will drive which community or which demographics or psychographics you want to target. And in this case, that brand design or the identity will be driven by what is the message you want to convey to the community. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Regine. Okay. Okay, and then does planning and working a UX for customer needs need IT skill? No need. Shirley, right? Shirley. So thank you for your question. I love this question. Does planning and working as UX no need? You don't need IT skills. The beautiful part about that, because when it comes to user experience design, many a times is really about understanding the user. You interview people. You prepare surveys. That one you can easily use, say, for example, what I often use is Google Forms to do surveys. For my interviews, I conduct them in person. So I use my phone to record their responses, be it like with their permission, definitely. Or sometimes I do Zoom interviews. So you don't need IT skills. So because there's different aspects in terms of a user experience design. There is the user experience part, which is doing the research, talking to the user, prototyping. Only when it comes to implementation, meaning when you really need to deliver the product. So usually we will work with a team of developers, depending whether you are building an app or you're building a website. Sometimes we build what we call experiential marketing, like a pop-up event. So you are engage different types of technical skills when it comes to the implementation part. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah, thank you, Shirley. Okay, anonymous attendee. How to determine the ROI for user design? That is a very good question. So usually in terms of the ROI, it's always very much linked to the business objective. And then with more than often the business objective, right? Within your business objective, I'm sure you have your KPIs, meaning definitely using, I think one thing we are very familiar with, some of you may be in business or marketing, the SMART objective, being very specific with your objective. You can do a bit of research. It's SMART, SMART objective. So having that SMART objective is very important because it's something that is very specific, measurable, attainable, and then realistic in terms of your budget and your resources, and last but not least, time bound. So how much time do you have to deliver this new user experience design? So I think with that sort of KPI set in place, the KPI has to be measurable, like how many percent increase, and maybe you want to reach out to increase in 1,000 more followers, that kind of thing. It has to be measurable, but yes, it has to be realistic within your budget and the resources that you have, and it has to be time bound within half a year or 1 year. So using your KPI, then you can use it to inform your ROI. So I hope that helped answer your question. Yeah. Okay. Can you explain a little back on the Nespresso for that differentiation? I don't quite understand, Regina or Regine. I don't quite understand this question. Maybe you can elaborate further in your next question. To pursue a career, I'm going to answer the next question. Anonymous attendee, to pursue a career in UX design, what qualifications or skills or knowledge do you need to have? Okay, I'm going to do some self-goyo here. So we do have a program called User Experience Design and Management, which I take care of. I'm the program leader of the course that we run in the School of Design and Media at Nanyang Poly. So later on, I'm happy to maybe give you some website that I can post it here that you can see as well. So I think it's less, that is a start. So it's a specialist diploma. I would say, in fact, the SkillsFuture website do have a lot of programs in place, depending on your time. I know that time to study and work at the same time might be difficult. So they may be more short-term courses. Sometimes in Nanyang Poly, we run a one-day course. If your time permits, maybe one-day course is suitable for you. But that will give you a very, very introduction, very sort of a simple introduction into what UX is. But we have a 1 year kind of specialist diploma where you attend lessons once a week. Those are very good in-depth kind of approach to really understand what's the whole user flow. Because ultimately, when it comes to user experience design, it's the practice, meaning you can learn about all these theories, but how you apply in a real world project, which is what we do. We do real clients project, and we bring the clients to take a look at the projects that the learners come up with by applying the theories that they learn. So later on, an anonymous attendee, I'll send you a link. I'll type the link in the chat. Okay, Regine, on UX, would it be a website, or what are some best practices you would say? I think if I'm reading your question correctly, you're referring to Nespresso. So what Nespresso is presenting to the world is, it can be very easy to say, I just want to sell you a coffee machine, right? And which is what some companies are doing, which is fine, if that is their business objective. But what Nespresso is trying to do is to change the mindset. Because when the founder first started in Nespresso in the late 80s, even though he had the idea in the late 70s, when he was visiting Italy, he realized, oh my God, they serve such good coffee. Why can't we have good coffee at home, this kind of quality good coffee at home? And then he found a way to design the machine through R&D. This is the best way. So, but why would someone want to pay so much money for a coffee machine, and why would someone want to invest in capsules on a day-to-day basis? It's like to top up their coffee. Why can't I just go to a coffee shop? So it's actually not just selling you a product, it's actually selling you a mindset change. So you have to understand at that point in time, people's perception of coffee, especially in North America, was like, oh, no, you don't need to pay a lot of money for coffee. Yeah. In fact, when I was in New York, most of the comment people were saying that the reason why Starbucks can thrive so well is because New York serves very bad coffee. That was the general comment. But I love those bad coffee. I love the diners coffee. That's aside another story. But I think it's not just a website alone or app alone. Is actually trying to change people's perception of what coffee is. So yeah, from, say, for example, you buy a takeaway from a food truck in New York. Yeah, Regina, again, for the lack of budget, how do you think one can do good UX? I think as a start, what you can do, depending on what you want to design, what I always recommend to students is to do a revamp. Say, for example, you find that one of the apps that you use, or as a start, is there's some problems, it's very challenging to use. You can use that as a start off to say, hey, I want to improve this app. How do I improve it? How do I make it better? Maybe you interview the people who use this app, you do some mock-ups, you show your friends, and you test it again. So without the budget, you can actually do some sort of testing and practice. Shirley, again, how can we learn how to craft or customize the experience for an important client? I think having that conversation with your client is very important. Apart from putting yourself in the shoe of the customer, is also putting ourselves in the shoe of your client, because user experience is about meeting the user needs as well as meeting the business needs, business goals. So Shirley, you would have to have more coffee with your client to craft the experience, because many of this, especially when it comes to user experience, is actually through conversation. You have to understand where people are coming from, and having to talk to them and find out their real needs. Sometimes it's only revealed to you when you observe them, you speak to them, or you even research their existing products and services and look at what this is offering, what are some of the what we call pain points in the user experience, and then we improve them based on the existing pain points. I hope that answers your question. Let me see, it's alive. Let me see, get around to it. Anonymous attendee, do I need to know UI to get a job? UX interviewer say he can also do. Oh, what's the difference between UI and UX? That's a very good question. So this is something that I always had to clarify to my students as well. User experience, UX, is looking at the, let me see, what is the best way to put it? How the person go through or interact with your products or services. For example, in the case of Nespresso, if you're looking at the user experience, usually we will start off with a user journey. Imagine like watching a movie. User experience to me, user journey is like watching a movie. You have different acts. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Beginning, middle, and end. Like writing a composition. Beginning, you introduce yourself. Okay, you introduce a little bit about a product, but you don't show everything. And then as you progress, there's Act 2, where you have the climax, which is the most important thing that you want to highlight in the user experience. And then at the end of it, you have a resolution. Your resolution usually has to be about, at the end of the user journey, what do you want your customer to take away? So this is one approach that people can take. But if you join our program, for specialist diploma, we can share more. That is user experience. You can look at the journey, the whole journey. When it comes to an app, say for example, like a Lazada app, what is the first starting? Starting is I search, right? Search, that's the user experience. Then the next thing I do is I put inside my shopping cart, okay? This maybe the climax. I choose already, wow, I put in shopping cart, very happy already. Then the next thing I do is check out, okay? Then maybe the end is wait for delivery. So that's like a 3X structure. That is the UX. But when it comes to the UI is the buttons design. How big is the button? Where do I put the search bar? Do I put the categories, the different categories of products and services at the top or in the middle or at the bottom? Which one will they see first? What if I have a little pop-up at the side for the games icon? Where do I put that? Sometimes, especially in smaller SME companies in Singapore, smaller design studios in Singapore, the UX and the UI is the same person, which is what we train our students to do over here at School of Design and Media as well. But having said that, there are some people who specializes in UX, which is doing the user research. You really have to go to the ground and interview people. You have to ask the uncle and auntie how they're feeling. This is really focusing on the UX. The UI is, you will usually have to work with software like what we call Figma, Adobe XD. You design the user interface, which is how big the button is, what color should I use, what font should I use. So that is the main difference. One is focusing on aesthetic. UI is focusing on more of the visual aesthetic. UX is focusing on the person's experience, what journey they are going through. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question. Then in a specialist diploma, do you teach software skills like Adobe XD, Native React? Okay, the US Design and Management Program specialist diploma that we run is focused primarily on the design aspect. In fact, but right now we're looking at a revamp. We're also hearing from the industry as well as our current learners, as well as our alumni, what are the needs of the industry as well. Maybe we can start looking into Native React. Native React is really the programming aspect, but to cover, because we have only 1 year review, to cover both the design, the UX, the UI. We also cover project management. Maybe Native React is something that we can add on as a complementary subject, but we can look into that. But in our specialist diploma, we focus primarily on the design and the project management, because we realize a big part of it is you have so many stakeholders involved. You have your customer, you have your client, you also have your, maybe sometimes they have your investors, you have your technology that you have to work with. So it's about managing these different groups of people with different skill sets in the project. So I hope that answers your question regarding what we teach. But we do teach the learners some on Adobe XD. We also introduce them to Figma, which is quite a common UX prototyping tool. It's available on the browser. It's open source, it's free. So which is why more companies are adopting it. Yeah. Okay. Are there any hands-on course at NP on developing online UX rather than just understanding? Yes. So I from Nanyang Poly, so I don't know about MP. So I don't know if there's a typo here. But definitely, if you look at the SkillsFuture website, and later on I can share the link to our lifelong learning website. There will be short courses, like 1-day courses or 1-week courses where it's more hands-on skills. So what I covered today is more of the theoretical aspect of things, but definitely there in our specialist diploma, we actually do cover the hands-on part. Yeah. Okay, so this one. Do I need formal training to be a UX practitioner? It's less about formal training, very much it's really about the design, the practice. So when it comes to design, especially in the design industry, what is most important is your portfolio. So it's not about just qualification alone, but having said that, if you have like, say for example, a specialist diploma from Nanyang Poly, School of Design Media in user experience design and management, what this kind of program helps you is actually to give you a chance to build a portfolio. If you don't have a UX portfolio, say for example, if you are trained, we do have some learners who are mid-career changes. They were previously in marketing, they were doing more PR, and then we even have business analysts who was doing more data and business analyzing in a bank. They did a career kind of transition or upskills themselves, meaning on their job, they realized they needed more understanding of UX and UI on their job. There's a demand for it. They make a career shift. So using our program, they actually use that program opportunity to build portfolio, meaning projects that go through the whole UX process, can show the client, hey, I actually really understand what is user experience. These are the UI, user interface that I designed based on certain design principles. And using a portfolio, they use it to kickstart their career in user experience. So I hope that answers your question. So ultimately, it's about the portfolio. Yeah, show you again. Free tools. As I was saying, Figma is readily available. So you can let me just type the answer. Yeah, this is the software that you can consider trying out. How much does a UX person typically learn? Is salary higher if also do UI? Okay, it depends. It depends on the seniority as well, because there's a demand for what our graduates, when they graduate from the diploma I'm teaching, which is Diploma in Interaction Design, which is what we call the PET program, which is for our O-level school leavers and ITE school leavers. They attend our 3 years diploma. They all usually start off with as a junior UI UX designer. So, but as you progress, in the career, 3 to 5 years down the road, you may be promoted to a senior UI UX designer. So I think it's also dependent on the company. Sometimes bigger company where they need someone specialized to do UX, then it's a kind of like a different arrangement. Also, how in-depth the user experience go into. Do they do the pre-user experience, which is the interviewing, or do they do the analytics to analyze the data coming in? So it depends. So I wouldn't say that the moment you do UI, you have higher pay. I don't have a gauge of that, but maybe you can do a bit of Googling, you'll be able to find out. But one thing I would suggest, actually SkillsFuture actually have a very good job portal, and it specifies the pay range. So that would give you a gauge. You might want to do a quick search under the SkillsFuture website. It gives you a very quick gauge on what's exactly the pay range, because the job listings are there, the job description is there, and then it actually tells you what is the pay range for the company. So I hope that helps answer your question. Okay, and then maybe I'll take the last two questions. Do you need a UX portfolio for mid-career switches? Yes. I think I answered that earlier. UX portfolio is important. UI UX portfolio is important if you are considering mid-career switches. Yeah, that's a start. So apart from attending a program to start a portfolio, the other approach that you can also concurrently do is to do some self-initiated project where you take an app or website, then you say, I want to improve it, make it better. Then this is little things that we can do also to include in our portfolio. Yeah. Thank you, Shirley. No problem. Can we say they want deep experience with UX typically above 5 years? How do we start? Do we intern as mid-career person? Okay, I think as I was mentioning earlier, to make that career switch, what the learners from the specialist diploma that I'm sort of leading is what they do is to have first portfolio, very important. Then using the portfolio, you go and search out for the potential companies that may be looking for this specific kind of skill sets. But having said that, I think it's also beneficial to highlight your previous skill sets. Some of the learners actually that I know of, they have previous marketing skill sets, and then they add on UX to that portfolio, which is actually great, meaning you're getting this person with previous prior experience in another discipline, and this person can also do UX at the same time. So I wouldn't say disregard the things that you know previously, but add on, like, you know, like in games you buy like ammunition, you add on this pack or things that I would see that a specialist diploma is someone you can actually add on to your pack of sort of weapons lah, okay, tools. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. But you might need to start off with building a portfolio first. Having that portfolio is important. Yeah. Okay, I hope that answers everyone's question. I think we are good in terms of the time. Maybe I'll just post some of the, maybe I can share the last screen of my slides, which points you to our program. This, I'm going to post this. I don't know if I can share with everyone. Host, how do I share the link with everyone? Is it everyone? Okay. Okay, let me just answer. This is the link, and then maybe I'll just share the screen again. And I have another website that I will post to everyone. This is our lifelong learning website where you can see the list of programs that we offer here at Nanyang Poly. So these are, or most of them are 1-year specialist diploma. So especially for those who are looking at a career change, do keep a lookout. Do take a look on our website, and then definitely the SkillsFuture website where you have this job search. Job portal is a good place to kickstart your research. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll just do share a screen again very quickly. If you have further questions and if you want to reach out to me, this is my email, wen_lei@nyp.edu.sg. Okay, thank you everyone for your time, and then hope to see you at Nanyang Poly for our future programs as well. Have a great week ahead and take care. Stay safe. Okay, stop sharing.
Thank you, Wen Lei. We hope that you have taken away some pointers and insights from this webinar. If you need guidance on your tech upskilling journey, you can sign up for the free one-to-one skills and training advisory session with SSG's Skills Ambassadors. They will have a conversation with you to understand your needs and objectives. It could be a new skill you're looking for to enhance your employment prospects or for your career transition plans, and share with you the relevant information. These include course search and recommendations, types of assistance schemes and funding, SkillsFuture credit, and other resources on My SkillsFuture portal. There are 3 ways to find or contact a Skills Ambassador. Visit us at any of the locations indicated on the map, but please take note of the operating days and time. They will provide you with suitable course recommendations based on your career goals. Simply scan the QR code or click on the link in the chat to register, and they will reach out to you within 3 to 4 working days. We have come to the end of our session. We would appreciate if you could take a minute to fill in the feedback form by scanning the QR code. Once again, thank you for taking time to join us in our webinar. Do check out the upcoming webinars on our SkillsFuture Festival website. Goodbye.